Welcome in, Big Blue Nation, to another episode of the Cats Talk podcast. I'm your host, Cameron Johnston, and I am joined by absolutely nobody. Nobody has joined me for this one. Jacob Boyers, my usual co-host, is dealing with a flooded basement. So I'd rather be here than dealing with what he's dealing with. But man, Godspeed, Jacob. Hopefully you're able to see this and hopefully, I'll make you proud over here, holding the fort down by myself. But obviously, tough situation he's got going with over there. Hopefully it goes smoothly. But we're going to keep on here with the Cats Talk podcast. Obviously, Kentucky with a dominant win on Wednesday night at Rupp Arena over Oklahoma, in which they won 94-78, a game that really felt comfortable the entire time. This is a game that, leading into it, Jacob and I discussed what we wanted to see in this game. And what I said I wanted to see in this game is exactly what came to fruition. I wanted the Cats to be able to, kind of have a little bit of a lead in this game and kind of just keep Oklahoma at that arm's length throughout the entire game. And that's what they did. There were a couple of scares. Oklahoma made some runs back at that lead, but obviously the Cats finished it off and finished strong, 94-78. In what really, Kentucky has won 7 of their last 8 games. This team is just starting. I don't know if I want to say this team is starting to become good. I don't think that's the word for them yet, but they're starting to become somewhat reliable. And I don't even know if that's a good word. I'm not sure what the adjective is to use for this Kentucky team, but whatever it is right now, I kind of like it. Obviously, we're riding a high of taking down Arkansas in Fayetteville, obviously beating Oklahoma pretty handily at home. But we're also only 9 days removed from our utter embarrassing loss at Vanderbilt. I mean, you just lost by 25 points, and then you go on the road, beat Arkansas, a very talented Arkansas team, and then you come at home and you protect home court against one of the worst teams in the SEC. And while, we're not going to beat our chest that we beat Oklahoma, it is something that you had to do. And it's something this team hadn't really proven they were able to do. Obviously, Missouri's not a very good team. They weren't able to get that win early in the season as well. And these Cats continue to find ways to shock me, impress me. I mean, there's different ways in which they find ways to win games. And a lot of that, you got to give the credit to the coaching staff. This coaching staff, while early in the season it felt like they were just throwing so many darts at the dartboard and nothing was really sticking, nothing was working. What they have now, minus Jalen Lowe, minus Jaden Quaintance, minus Cam Williams, they found something with this group of guys. Everybody knows their niche. They know their role. And they feel like a team. And this is probably the first time I think you can say that over a extended stretch. And I'm not not going to ride off into the sunset of what you're hearing, what you're hearing from me. Because again, 9-10 days ago, we were talking about the utter embarrassing loss in Nashville. But I mean, let's go ahead. Let's dive into this game. The Cats, obviously, they had 30 points in the paint, 32 points from the bench. And Otega Owe, what do we have to say? This guy plays Oklahoma, and he's just absurd. And really, Otega has been absurd since we've started SEC play. I think he scored 20-plus in majority of those games. And against Oklahoma on Wednesday night, 24 points, 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3. The three-point shot had really started to fall off as of late for Otega. So it was great to see him get those open shots and have the ability to knock those down. I think that's going to do wonders for his confidence going forward. And if you can have Otega Owe be a reliable 3-point threat. I'm not saying he needs to shoot, 38%, 37%, anything near that. But if you can have him where he's knocking them down at a 33 to 34% clip for the rest of the season, I think that adds a level to his game in which the defense is going to have to prepare for him to be able to take that shot. Right now, they're kind of sagging off, allowing him to take that. And especially when we're talking about a game against Tennessee where they get after you so physically, I think if he can knock down some of those shots, I think we got a real chance in that game. And Otega, man, there's really just not much more you can say about him. He's been terrific for this team. He gave you 3 boards and 3 assists in this one as well, playing 35 minutes a game. And it feels like every game we're looking at it, unless he gets in foul trouble, he's playing 35 minutes plus. And that was something Coach Pope was hesitant to do early in the season, hesitant to play those guys a lot of minutes. And he's really allowed his star players to play extended minutes. Obviously, we're looking at guys like Colin Chandler played 34. Denzel Aberdeen actually got in foul trouble a little bit early in this game and only played 27, but he's been playing 30-plus minutes. I really like what I've seen from this coaching staff to kind of pivot. And, they want to play a lot of guys. They want to get, the efficiency numbers. That's the things that this staff has kind of held their hat on. And for them to be able to just kind of put that to the wayside and move forward and allowing their guys to play the most minutes, it's something Jake and I have been begging for, obviously, a lot last season with Amari Williams and a lot this season with Otega Oweh. We're here. We've finally gotten here. The Cats' best players are playing the most amount of minutes, and while it's something that sounds so simple, it's something that's taken a while for us to get here, and they are finally here. But I can't say enough about what Otega Oweh has meant to this basketball team as of late. Obviously, took over the game against Arkansas. He wins you that one. And then we've gotten to the point now where a 24-point, 3-rebound, 3-assist game on 60% shooting is kind of just normal for him in SEC play. And I don't want that to get lost on this fan base in Big Blue Nation, because if anybody is as hard on Otega Oweh as I am, I'm probably the hardest person on him. I think the talent that he has is almost unmatched, just with his physical movement abilities, side to side, his ability to get downhill, and his ability to finish around the rim. We saw him, he's really starting to finish well as well. That really started at Arkansas, made a bunch of contested layups there, brought that into this Oklahoma game, and he's starting to finish well around the basket again. That was something that early in the season, it hadn't really been a strong suit of his, even though last year, that's what we knew Otega Oweh was a capable finisher around the rim. And he keeps continuing to take his game to a new level, game in and game out, and really putting this team on their back. And outside of Otega, man, it's just which one of these guys wants to step up. We saw against Arkansas, Colin Chandler stepped up. In this game against Oklahoma, put Oklahoma on the front of the chest, and Brandon Garrison and Otega Oweh are going to have great games. How about BG in this one? A double-double. Brandon Garrison's first double-double of his career. 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 of those were on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not saying this is the type of Brandon Garrison that I'm going to expect, but could you imagine if this is the physical play that you get from him down the stretch? Imagine him with Malachi. Malachi, we've talked over and over again about how he has exceeded so many of our expectations. Didn't play too much in this game. Only had 3 points, only played 11 minutes. But imagine if Brandon Garrison gives you this effort, gives you this physicality, and the physicality that you're going to need going up against a big, lanky Tennessee team. This Brandon Garrison was great. He made great backdoor passes, something that he has been doing. He made a couple in the Arkansas game as well. He's finally starting, and I don't want to go too far with it because obviously this was the best game of his career. Let's make no mistake about that. He was 20 points, 7 of 8 from the floor, perfect from the free throw line, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and only 1 turnover in 29 minutes. This was probably as good as Brandon Garrison can play. And of course, it was against the Oklahoma Sooners. He has a disdain for that burnt red, that maroon red. Whatever happens when Oklahoma comes to town, Brandon Garrison has given you his A-plus effort, and I am all here for it. But just imagine if you get this kind of effort, this physicality, this backdoor passing ability, everything that he's kind of shown you in spaces throughout his career. Imagine if you can start to rely on that a little bit more consistently throughout the rest of the season. I'm not saying it's something I'm going to go and take my money and put it in the bank. I don't know how much we can trust what Brandon Garrison does game in to game out, but I can say props are due here after his terrific game against Oklahoma. And man, starts to get me thinking, all right, these are the flash, all of last year, we saw the flashes of Brandon Garrison, the flashes of BG. You're like, full season with Amari Williams, can he sort of transition into that role? Can he find a way to affect the game like Amari did. And while I don't think he'll ever get to that, I don't think he's ever going to be the passer or the rebounder that Amari Williams was. It is great to see him take steps like this, and I think that it can really only help this team as they go down the stretch. So I'm really hoping to see more continuous effort from Brandon Garrison. And if he's able to impact the game against Tennessee like he just did against Oklahoma, I think we're going to be in for a really good game. And there's so many guys that had, this is kind of what we've been talking about, game in and game out throughout the season. It's just, okay, you know what you need from Otega Owe. You know what you kind of need from Denzel Aberdeen. And then it's who else steps up? Who else wants to come in and who wants to be the offensive threat for that game? Who wants to come in and be the rebounder for that game? That's kind of what we've had. We've had a, mix and match puzzle going for the entire season. Some games it's worked. Obviously, Arkansas it worked. Oklahoma it worked. Vanderbilt, no one really stepped up, and we obviously got our tails kicked. Somebody who's continued to step up. And, I'm just going to say it now, man. Anytime you need a clutch bucket, you need a clutch steal, I'm not sure who else I'm looking to besides Colin Chandler. He continues to make clutch and just high-pressure moment plays. Obviously, the last game against Tennessee, he had that big steal that was able to, just keep all the momentum on our side and really get that was the food center, Thompson Bowling Arena, quiet them down and really allow Kentucky to get back into that game and finally be able to take the lead and obviously come out of there with the win. And then against Ole Miss, he had that corner three. Against Arkansas, the fadeaway. Arkansas, he also had a deep three when we were down 4 to cut that lead down to 1. He continues to make big play after big play, and I think you can finally start to see that confidence that we saw at the end of last season from Colin Chandler and even early at the beginning of this season start to come back. He's starting to shoot a lot more. Shot 13 shots in this game, 6 of 13, but shot 50% from 3. Knocked down 4 of them. And I think 2 of them were right before halftime and allowed Kentucky to stretch that lead and feel more comfortable going into the half. And he keeps providing you auxiliary stats as well. 3 rebounds, 3 assists. These guys are really moving the ball well. They had a 21-6 assist to turnover ratio in this one. And usually when you look at this Kentucky team and you look at the box score, one of the first things I try to look at is the assist to turnover ratio. And in this one, 21-6, obviously that's over 3-1. I love my chances of these Wildcats winning a game when they can have a 3-1 assist to turnover ratio. And Colin lately has been a big part of that. And obviously not to be lost in all of this is a guy who's actually kind of taken a back seat in the past 2 games after really starting to come into his own, and that's Denzel Aberdeen. 8 points in this one, only 3 of 10 shooting, but did knock down 2 triples. But 5 assists. It really feels like he's starting to become that game manager, that facilitator. It seems like he's finally becoming more comfortable in that point guard role. And it's something that I'm super excited about. He's under control. He's willing to make the extra pass. He's definitely still not afraid to shoot the ball. And he's taking good shots now. It doesn't feel like he's forcing as much as he was early in the season. I think Denzel's finally become comfortable. Like even in this game, when you're looking at it, in the early parts of the season, you had games like against Louisville where Denzel could be your offense for a stretch. And you were like, man, we need this guy 24/7. And then he would disappear for 3 or 4 games, take bad shots, have pointless and meaningless turnovers. And then you get a little bit later into the season, once we start SEC play, Jalen Lowe is out for the season. I think that's something that's actually kind of helped Denzel. He doesn't have to balance between being a point guard and being a shooting guard. Right now, it's just, hey, this is your team. You are the point guard. We're running the offense through you. Get downhill, get to your spots, look for outlets, get on the run. And that's really something that he's taken in stride. And his assist numbers keep continuing to climb. And he's keeping that assist to turnover ratio. And I know that's probably something I'm going to speak until I'm blue in the face about, but it's something I think is so crucial in games like these. 5 assists to only 1 turnover. When your primary ball handler is able to create that many points without giving the opposition, points off of turnovers, that's something incredible. And while Denzel didn't have a stellar shooting night, didn't really affect the game in too many ways, I think this is one of the more underwhelming games you're going to see from Denzel towards the latter half of the season. And it was still better than what we saw early in the season. I think the floor for Denzel Aberdeen's performance has really raised. And I think with that, the floor of this Kentucky's team performance has raised. And it has me excited for what this team can do for the rest of the season, because I tell you what, we have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. And obviously, that'll start Saturday with the Tennessee Volunteers coming into town. And we're going to have the Denims, man. I'll tell you what, I was not old enough to be able to watch, Antoine Walker, Jeff Shepard, Tony Delkin, some of those guys play in those denim uniforms, but I have one. Or I don't know if you can say I have one. My dad has one. He loaned it to me to wear last year, and I just haven't returned it. So, Dad, if you're listening, I don't know where your Walter McCarty denim Kentucky jersey is. It's definitely not here at my house, but I'm so excited to see those on these guys. They've started to drop some little teasers of what they're going to look like. They've put out some, they put Malachi Moreno and Jasper Johnson out there in the denim uniforms, and they look spot on like they did in 1996. And like Mark Pope always says, it's not the denim, it's what in them. It's who's in them or what's in them. I probably just butchered that. I can't remember exactly, but you guys know what I'm trying to get at here. But that game is on Saturday, and we're going to finish talking about Oklahoma here first. I can't wait for that rematch, and, we're going to break it down here soon for you, Big Blue Nation. But let's continue to talk about what these Wildcats did against Oklahoma and what they've continued to do now through their, can't say winning, it's 2-game winning streak, but really just their positive play streak, obviously 7 of the last 8. And we've mentioned it. We keep talking about it. There's just guys who step up, game in, game out, give you what you need when you need it. And you guys know this if you've been listening and following along with the podcast. And this is a great time for me to mention to you guys, hey, if you're not, please subscribe to the Cats Talk podcast on YouTube. We are so close to hitting 500 subscribers, and that is a big milestone for Jake and I. So if you guys could please pause what you're doing now, make sure, check and see if you're subscribed. And, sometimes you think you're subscribed and you're not. So go ahead and double check that, because Jacob, of all people, the co-host who's been doing this with me for over a year and a half, looks down and checks on his, and co-host wasn't subscribed. Well, I don't know what kind of tomfoolery that is. But, yeah, if you guys can, please like and subscribe. It means the world to us, and we're just happy to bring you this content. On that note, these Cats, and you guys know, if you've been listening to me, how big of a fan I am of Andrea Yelovich and what I think he can bring this Kentucky team. I think he really showed you that in extended minutes against Oklahoma. He had 9 points, hit 2 threes, was 3 of 5 from the floor, gave you 6 rebounds and 3 assists with no turnovers. All of that production in 22 minutes. He stretches the floor. He's a good rebounder. He plays physical. He's got some side-to-side movement just the communication seems to be off every now and again on the defensive side of the ball. But when we need offense, there's no reason he should not be on the court. Right now, when you're talking about just our bigs, you're talking about Andrea Yelovich, Brandon Garrison, you're talking about Mo Diabate, even though he's like a 6'7", 6'8" big. I'm not sure how much you can consider him that. He's the guy you want taking those shots. He's the guy you want stretching the floor. And especially with, obviously, the Cam Williams injury, we need a lot more from Andrea Yelovich. He showed a lot in this game. I think he's got the chance to be a very, very meaningful player down the stretch. If we can find a way to be able to, it seems like majority of his issues come on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to pick and rolls, when it comes to just communication on that side of the ball in general. I don't know if that's something this late in the season you can fix, but I'll tell you what, when you need offense like you're going to need against a Tennessee team, when you need offense like when you go in a week and you go play Florida, I want Andrea Yelovich on the floor, and I want him taking some shots, because right now he's hitting those shots. I think he's shooting at like 44% from 3 since the start of SEC play. And if you guys remember correctly, there in non-conference, he had no confidence at all. He was shooting the 3, so I guess he had the confidence enough to shoot them, but he was not making any. So for him to, come around like that since SEC play, the shooting has just gotten so much better. I think it was always there, but you're now starting to see the confidence. The rim is starting to look wider, and he's starting to knock down some of those threes. And he's really rebounding the ball at a high clip, too. 6 rebounds in 22 minutes. I mean, you're talking about just about one every 3.5 minutes there. And then he's giving you an assist. I mean, 3 assists. He's able to move the ball. And I think, coming over from playing professional ball, overseas, I think his transition from overseas basketball to college basketball obviously took some time, but I think he's finding a way to fit in and use, what he can excel at and bring that to the college game. And I think Mark Pope and the staff are finally figuring out how to use him and get the most of him. And I'm super excited to see, how he can keep that going. And hopefully, I'm going to keep pounding the table for him because I still want him to play even more than 22 minutes, and that's what he got in the extended run against Oklahoma. But all that being said, man, if Brandon Garrison's giving you 20 and 11, I'm not sure you can take BG off the floor either. And, we mentioned how great Malachi Moreno's been all season. Honestly, this just kind of felt like a bye week for Malachi Moreno. Felt like, hey, man, BG came in, played terrific. Malachi only played 11 minutes in this game, got in foul trouble early, only gave you 3 points and 2 rebounds, but had 3 blocks in those 11 minutes. He's really becoming a threat around the rim, and that's something we haven't had in a little while. Amari Williams could get blocks and collect blocks, but really something we had been lacking for a little bit of time, and that's something that Malachi has proven as of late. He had a good amount against Arkansas as well. He's really changing shots around the rim. And him and Mohamed Diabate, when they are in together, while that might not be your most, offensively prolific and efficient team, it definitely changes shots around the rim. I can think back to the Arkansas game when I was down there watching Darius Acuff. I mean, he was still getting to the rim, still getting shots that he wanted, but it was because of Malachi. It was because of Mohamed Diabate challenging those shots, affecting those shots, blocking a lot of those shots. Why he shot such a poor percentage and why you saw, a lottery pick guard and one of Cal's better guards shoot so poor from the field. And that's a reason why Kentucky was able to win that game. I think it's the little things right now that Malachi Moreno is providing you. And, we keep saying it. He's so far ahead of what we thought he was going to be. I'm super excited to see potentially what could be Malachi Moreno next season. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. As Kentucky fans, we're used to people being one and dones. I don't think that's going to be Malachi Moreno, but, you look at these draft boards and he's continuing to climb up and up those, especially if he starts showing, a little bit more offensive prowess and a little bit more of his bag down low. I think there's a chance you could see Malachi test the draft waters in the offseason. And, I'm not saying he's going to leave. I'm not saying he's going to be here. That's going to be one of those guys that, especially down the stretch, freshmen in general, this is usually when they start to hit that wall, mid-February until March. Once you get into the tournament time, they start hitting that wall. Their legs get tired. They're not used to playing this many games. And of course, not against this high caliber athletes. So to only have to play Malachi 11 minutes in this game, I think is going to be huge because against Tennessee, I mean, if you guys remember that game, that was a game we really couldn't play Malachi all that much. He was going against physical defenders. He wasn't able to necessarily match that physicality. He only had 3 points in that game, 6 rebounds in 22 minutes. So this might be the best case scenario in which you got Malachi a little bit of a breather against Oklahoma, let him rest up, and then to allow Brandon Garrison to get that confidence before a game in which you're desperately going to need him and Mohamed Diabate to play physical basketball against Carey and Nate Ament from Tennessee. I think this could be coming at the best time possible for these Kentucky Wildcats. And outside of that, obviously, we're going to talk about Jasper Johnson and Trent Noah. Jasper, the last time we played Tennessee, I know you guys all remember that stretch where Jasper Johnson just went off and kept the team in the game for the first half. He finished that game with 12 points on 5 of 6 shooting and 2 of 3 from 3. Had 4 assists in that one. I mean, if we're looking at it, that's probably Jasper's best game as a Kentucky Wildcat. And he was the reason that those Cats were in the game because the first half, we got down by 18. Imagine what would happen if Jasper wasn't there. He was our offense in that first half down there in Knoxville. I'm excited to see what Jasper can do. I'm not sure how much we can rely on Jasper game in and game out. Jacob had a really good take early in the season. I'm gonna give him his credit for this. He mentioned, or Jasper as a little bit of a less shifty Rob Dillingham, to where he has that microwave ability. He can get hot just like that in an instant, and he can have 9 points for you in 3 possessions. But he can also just be a non-factor for the entire game. I don't know how much you can rely on that. Obviously, hopefully for these Wildcats, we've gone 2 games back to back now, talking about Arkansas and Oklahoma, where we avoided those slow starts, avoided getting behind big time early. Hopefully that is a thing of the past, but a real spot in which you can see Jasper Johnston start to shine is when you desperately need offense and you're like, hey, Jasper, we can't get anything going right now. Go for it. Take the ball, run it, get to your spot, create for others, create for yourself, take those threes. He's sure not afraid to take some of them. He pulled up at the start of that Tennessee game, the very first possession, he pulled up maybe like 3 or 4 feet from the logo, just drained it. I mean, he's got the confidence and he's got the skill set offensively to be able to help this team in this game against Tennessee like he did in that first game. But I just don't know how much I want to bank on Jasper Johnston going forward. And then Trent Noah after a incredible game against Arkansas. And I told all of you guys, if you've been listening, and I'm sure some of you guys have, some of you guys are probably just watching us for the first time, I've always been hard on Trent Noah, strictly because I'm just not sure if that level of athlete with the size that he has can play at the SEC level. And what he did on Saturday against Arkansas proved me completely wrong. Going against athletes like Trevon Brazile, Billy Richmond, Carter Knox, Darius Acuff, Malik Thomas, he was grabbing those rebounds. He was the guy getting in there, getting loose balls. He was hitting threes and shushing the crowd. So Trent really proved me wrong in that Arkansas game, and I'm hoping that Arkansas game was kind of a springboard for what he can give you for the rest of the season, because he doesn't necessarily have to be a dynamic offensive player. He doesn't have to be, a huge rebounder for this team. Just be that glue guy. I think that's what Trent Noah does the best. He helps you out in a lot of aspects of the game. He's a good 3-point shooter, and he only takes shots when he has open looks. And you feel pretty good about him taking them when he's shooting them and when he's open. He finds a way to, even though he's only 6'5", he finds a way to crowd ball lanes. He finds a way to, get traffic rebounds. Funny clip, Mohamed Diabate said, the Mountain Mamba stealing all my rebounds when talking about Trent Noah at the halftime of the Arkansas game. So seeing these guys and their camaraderie and seeing that Trent Noah could be the glue for this team and, helping the team. What do you need to give me today, coach? It kind of seems like Trent Noah is that guy. Sometimes we're going to need you to take some more shots. Sometimes we're going to need you to battle in low. Sometimes, we're going to need you to give us more minutes because somebody's in foul trouble. I think Trent can be that guy who kind of just molds and fits into what the team needs game in, game out. And hopefully that's something that he continues to be for these Wildcats going forward, because we're going to have a big test against Tennessee on Saturday. And obviously, Tennessee is still ranked. I think last I looked, Kentucky was a 1.5-point favorite. I mean, you guys let me know. What were some of your favorite memories of those denim uniforms? I've heard all the stories about how at that time, they weren't necessarily liked, but now that, we're almost, we are 30 years later, they're loved. And obviously there was such demand for them to come back. They're coming back on Saturday against Tennessee. And obviously to have Coach Pope be the head coach when we're unveiling some of the 96 team is going to be back in attendance for this game. It's really just a very cool moment. And hopefully the Cats can really, really perform when the lights are going to be the brightest. Because, Pope mentioned that he doesn't think there's necessarily going to be added pressure with the new uniforms, with the new shoes. Obviously, you got Devin Booker dropping the new shoes for him. You have all the 96 guys coming back. There is a level of pressure that's being added to this game. And obviously, we watched that Tennessee game. There's no love lost between Tennessee and the University of Kentucky. Obviously, you saw Ortega always comments to Carey at the end of the game. He might have told him he needed to be on a diet plan. And, sometimes you just got to be told that. You got to be told things like that. Ortega told him that. And man, it's funny. It really is. Ortega, while frustrating at times, when you think about transfers in just like modern Kentucky basketball, you think about guys like Oscar Shibwe, obviously terrific. You think about guys like Reed Travis came in, Nate Sestina. I mean, even going back to guys like Ryan Harrow. I mean, you think about some of these guys that came in and, made an impact. Ortega always probably second on that list behind Oscar Shibwe. And you're talking about maybe Antonio Reeves is probably fighting for second as well. But we're talking about just a terrific, terrific Kentucky Wildcat. And I really hope that at the end of the season and, however far he can take us, we truly sit back and realize, just how good Ortega was. Because me, for example, we talk about game in, game out, what's going on. We try to look for positives, try to look for negatives, try to look for ways to improve. That's something I've tried to do myself, is take a step back and look at, what he's done for this program in the past year and a half. And hopefully, he's not done making contributions for this team. But it's going to be cool seeing Ortega Owe wearing those denim uniforms. And I don't know if there's going to be a way for me to get my hands on one, but if I can get a 00 Ortega Owe denim uniform while I'm down there in Lexington, you better believe I'm going to get one. Because even if it doesn't have Ortega's name on the back, if it doesn't have Owe on the back, I can say it's a Tony Delk jersey. It's like a 2-for-1. And I don't know how much of you guys know the early Cam Johnston, huge Marcus Lee fan. I might even just say that's a Marcus Lee jersey. One of the most underrated cats, I think, of all time. I love Marcus Lee and what he brought to that team. Sorry to get on that side tangent, but we're just talking about 00s here, and those are the three that stood out in my mind. But let's go ahead. Let's get into this Kentucky versus Tennessee game on Saturday. Man, just take some of what we said after that game down there in Knoxville, and we keep finding ways to beat Tennessee when you least expect it. Obviously, we were down 18 in the first half, come back and beat Tennessee at their place. And it was just a lot of guys catching fire in the second half. Denzel Aberdeen was massive in that game. 7 of 11 from the floor, 22 points. And if you remember correctly, Ortega Owe didn't play all that well in that game. 12 points, only 2 rebounds, had 3 turnovers. If you can find a way to beat that team on the road with Ortega Owe performing like that, now granted, that being said, you also need guys like Jasper Johnson to step up like they did down in Knoxville. I think there's a really good chance that Kentucky can win this game. And the only thing I'm hoping is the moment doesn't get too big for these guys. I don't think it will. They've been through a lot of moments this season. We talk about the roller coaster that it has been for these guys. We talk about starting the season, beating the number 1 ranked Purdue in the preseason. You're thinking, Final Four team, national championship team. You're thinking all of these things. And then you lose to Louisville. And you're like, well, Louisville's a really good team. We can still, Final Four, we can still find our way there. And the injuries keep happening. Everything keeps finding a way to show that maybe you might not be that Final Four team. You lose heartbreakers to North Carolina. You obviously get destroyed against Gonzaga, destroyed against Michigan State. And then the sky is falling. And we just don't know what to do. We're trying to figure out, what happened? What's going on with this roster building? Why was it so bad? And then just like that, you beat St. John's and you're back at the top of the mountain. And then just like that, you lose to Missouri, you're back down in the bottom. You get a 5-game winning streak, back to the top of the roller coaster, and then you get destroyed by Vanderbilt. And now you're thinking, all right, well, this team might have just won their games against a bad part of their schedule, and they took advantage of that. And then as soon as we think that, they go out, they beat Arkansas, back up on the top of the roller coaster. They beat Oklahoma. If you really want to start to change perceptions of this team, change, destinations of where you think they can go, Sweet 16, Elite 8 potential, depending on the draw and, who we match up against, a lot of that can be answered by this game against Tennessee on Saturday. And after that game, you have a full week to prepare for Florida. Florida is obviously looking terrific as of late. Condon, Boogie Flan, Zaven Lee. I mean, they are doing incredible things down there, and they look like a national championship level team yet again after winning one last year. But keys to victory, I think, for this Wildcats team, obviously, I don't think you can get off to such a putrid start like you did last year, or not last year, last game against Tennessee. I don't think Rick Barnes is going to allow two 18-plus point comebacks against Kentucky in the same year. And really what you need Otega to be Otega. And it might kind of suck for him that we have to rely on him to score 20-plus points, shooting, a good percentage, like 60-plus from the field, grabbing a good amount of rebounds, getting some pick sixes, getting the passing lanes, grabbing boards. We're putting a lot on his plate. But as a guy who was the SEC preseason player of the year, I think he wears that weight on his shoulders. And I think that's something that, he takes pride of. And hopefully keys to victory, Otega Owe can play great in this game and really, just lead this team to a win. And then you need guys like Denzel to step up on the offense side of the ball. It's been back-to-back games where he's kind of struggled from the offense side of the ball, but can he be that facilitator? You need one of two things from Denzel Aberdeen, I think, in order to win this game against Tennessee. You either need him to be the scorer like he was in that first game, or you need him to be that facilitator that's going to get guys like Andrea Jelovich, like Jasper Johnson, like Colin Chandler open looks. You've got to find ways in which for Denzel Aberdeen to be a plus for this team. Find either be that facilitator or be the scorer. We got to have one or the other. And if you can do both, great. Because if you can do both, I think Kentucky has a really good chance of winning this game. And then from all the others, Colin Chandler continue to make big plays. He's making clutch plays, clutch Colin Chandler, CCC. I mean, that's just Air Mormon. I'm all in on the Colin Chandler hype train right now. I'm not saying I'm leading the charge because there's definitely some people out there, like my dad, for instance, has been a Colin Chandler guy since, before he even committed to Kentucky, my dad knew the BYU connection with him and Mark Pope. He liked Colin Chandler during that time. So he's probably the leader of that bandwagon. I'm just somewhere on one of the cars in the back. But I'm getting the horn going, and we're all aboard the Colin Chandler train. I think he just splashes down a couple threes in this one, hits you two or three, gets some good in-traffic rebounds. I think you'll be in good shape there. And then one of the three bigs, Jelovich, Moreno, Garrison, has to establish a physicality in which Nate Ament and Carey are going to be uncomfortable. Because if you look at a reason why Kentucky was able to win this game, Jalen Carey was 3 of 12 from the floor. And Jalen Carey doesn't take shots that are more than 6 feet away from the basket. Our presence around the rim that game really allowed him to never feel comfortable. Malachi Moreno had 4 blocks in that game. Colin Chandler had 1. Otega had 1. Don't let any of these finishes around the rim become comfortable. Make all of them contested. Send them to the line if you have to. This team is a pretty solid free throw shooting team, but if you remember that game against Kentucky, they were 20 of 29, so just over 66% from the free throw line in that game. Physicality is going to be a huge one in this one. The ability to shoot the 3 ball. And I don't think you have to get out to a hot start. I don't think you have to do anything crazy like you did against Arkansas, but you have to stay within striking distance this entire game. I don't think you ever really want this game to get to a 3-possession lead. I don't think you want to see this get above 7 points or so. And then it's just, who's that guy that's going to step up outside of the usuals? Is it going to be Jasper Johnson? Is it going to be Trent Noah? Is Mohamed Diabate going to that last 5 minutes of the previous Tennessee game, he might have been the best player on the floor. He had like 4 rebounds in that stretch, was finishing around the rim, contesting shots. Which one of those guys is going to step up? I think that's going to be huge for what these Wildcats can do. Hopefully, we're talking on Monday afternoon, and we're talking about how Kentucky's now won 8 of 9 games in a row. We're talking about just how much better we feel about this team. We mentioned the roller coaster. Let's continue on the high with Kentucky getting a win over Tennessee. My game prediction in this one, I am going to have the Cats winning. Like I said, I think there are the keys to victory. You have to have Otega play like Otega. You can't have the version you had of him that first Tennessee game. You have to have Denzel. He has got to be a scorer or a facilitator. If he can be both, great, but he's got to be able to do one of those two things. And it's just, can those other guys step up? Let's knock down some 3-point shots, get out on the run, get in transition. Let's force Tennessee into, playing defense on their heels. And outside of that, really, when you're looking at Tennessee, it's stopping Jacoby Gillespie. It's stopping Nate Ament. I mean, Nate Ament, I think, is averaging 25 points per game since that Kentucky loss. So he's really coming into his own. And I'm not sure if we have someone that can guard Nate Ament. Cam Williams kind of drew a little bit of that assignment. Obviously, he's sidelined with an injury. I would assume you're going to put guys like Diabate and Yelovich are probably going to be guys who draw that primary responsibility for Nate Ament. And if you remember, Yelovich did a pretty good job against Caleb Wilson early in the season. I don't remember how much he got matched up with him against Tennessee that first go around, but that's going to be a big point of conversation is who is Kentucky running at Nate Ament, and if Gillespie and Nate Ament really start getting in pick and roll situations, how do the Cats force that? Are they, rushing attacks at them? Are they dropping back? Obviously, Gillespie hit a 3 to start that game last week and really just started a landslide for Tennessee and why they got off to such a big lead. But Big Blue Nation, first off, thanks for listening to me talk for 40 minutes. I can't believe we're 40 minutes into this one here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my prediction. I've alluded to it throughout this podcast. I do think the Kentucky Wildcats win this game. I'm not sure they get into the 80s of this one. It's right around there. I think it's going to be a similar scoring game as what you saw last time. You know what? The Cats are going to get into the 80s. Give me a 82-77 win. The Cats win by 5 at Rupp Arena. They keep those denim uniforms. And really, Big Blue Nation, life is sweet again. We really start finding joy in watching this basketball team. I know I sure have. The resilience these guys have had has been terrific to watch, and it's been awesome to go on their journey. Let's continue that with a win against Tennessee. We don't like Tennessee. That ugly orange, we can't stand it around here. Obviously, whenever we get Jake's take, I'll let you guys know what his predictions are. I can't imagine Jake's picking Tennessee to win this game. He just doesn't seem like that kind of a guy. But Big Blue Nation, that is going to be all here for Cameron Johnston of the Cats Talk podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. We are so very close to getting to 500 subscribers, and that would be such a true blessing and an honor for us if you guys could help us there. And then wherever you get your social media, we're always providing updates on the denim uniforms, on the new Devin Bookers. How about LeBron James? I'm not a big LeBron James fan, but he wore Kentucky shoes, his LeBrons, just yesterday. Follow us to get all of that content. It's going to be on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, on TikTok, and obviously our podcast or anywhere you can listen, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Big Blue Nation, let's go ahead. Let's get that win. It's not about the denims. It's what's in them. Go Big Blue.